you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
High Five Casino is a social casino with real prizes and big Vegas hits at highfivecasino.com. The hottest games right from Vegas, and all winnings go straight to your bank account. Hundreds of exclusive games, free daily rewards, and come back to get free coins every 4 hours. Only at highfivecasino.com.
High Five Casino is a social casino. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details at high5casino.com.
High Five Casino.
Wake up for peace and quiet. McDonald's breakfast people, we wake up for the sweet rush of getting that warm, delicious breakfast right before it ends.
Be a McDonald's breakfast person with a $3 sausage McMuffin with egg and pair it with any size soft drink like a refreshing Coke for just $1.49. Order ahead in the app to save time. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
There you go now.
I think I'm refilling.
Oh, I think.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 01814-868.
Rondo Deportes, bonjour, vidi vidi vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe. And that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! You know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. As I tell a lot of people, I was voted neighborhood watch person. And my job is to bring people together in the neighborhood. But some people don't like it when it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's their fault. They voted for me. If that makes sense to you, you can follow Big C Sports Podcast on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. Today, also streaming on 4 TV applications: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit ya where the good Lord split ya. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too far, if that makes sense to you. I want to say, #1, I love doing Big C Sports Podcast. I have a special guest today, but I want to say I produce the show, I direct the topics, I broadcast all the shows based on the platforms provided by the agency. I even do all the sound effects. That's where the laughter comes from. And I do the commercials, the stats are provided. I even do the storytelling. And then sometimes, I do the play-by-play. Steph Curry for 3, yes! Get the whole bang in your life. Have you ever seen such a shot? But right now, it's going to look like Jamal Murray for 3, yes! Get the hole in your life. The Denver Nuggets are going to try to defend their NBA championship. All's fair and level war. Really do appreciate the things that are happening with Big C Sports Podcast. But not only that, I want to make sure that I always champion the California Reparations Task Force because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I think I'm the only sports show in the universe. I do it all the time. It doesn't mean that anyone has to follow it, but I love doing that. At the same time, I'm going to tell you, I never missed a show since doing Big C Sports Podcast. Through joy, pain, sunshine, and rain, as we're uploaded to 29 podcast platforms all over the world. And then, we never missed a show. And now we have people who miss days in practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about people who miss a day in practice. But that's okay. But what I don't want to do is ever miss the opportunity to give praise to the Veterans Crisis Hotline, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And their experience helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone. Call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And I love leaning on people, especially when somebody's leaning back. As I told you, I think I'm one of the only sports shows in the universe. I will always champion the California Reparations Task Force because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And before people might ask, well, who's the California Reparations Task Force, Big C? And why do you want to talk about them on every show? I told you I'm the number one sports show in the universe. And I love championing reparations. If I don't do it, who will? If not now, when? So I'm the only person that's going to do this. Number one, I want to give praise, and I met every one of these wonderful people. I want to give praise to Attorney Camila Moore. She's the chair of the California Reparations Task Force. I love giving her praise. I'm going to give praise to Dr. Amy C. Brown. He's the vice chair of the California Reparations Task Force. I love giving him praise. He's also been on Big C Sports Podcast. I'm going to give praise to California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant, and he authored Senate Bill 1403 to create California Freedmen's Bureau. I love giving him praise. I've met him several times in his office and at Reparations Task Force. I want to give praise to Council Member Monica Montgomery Steppe. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis. He's brilliant. Also professor at California Berkeley. I love giving him praise. And I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaki, part of the California Reparations Task Force. He's brilliant, and I love giving him praise. Give him all praise. I say give him all praise, praise, praise. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But I'm going to do something different. Unlike other people, when I do a commercial, I'm working on a commercial right now. And I don't go into a studio and do 29 takes. I do it live, so if I make a mistake, you get to hear my mistake. But if I don't make a mistake, you don't get to hear my mistake, if that makes sense to you. But I have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth with Resource Development Consulting, Inc., called RDC, in conjunction with the law offices of Scott Thibodeau and the law offices of Attorney George Jones, Esquire. And it's The Missing Link by Ray Delacruz, Long-Term Care, Solutions by the Book, over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits, Medicare and You, taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. Wow, but we work with the RDC team, Big C. I'm glad you asked, because your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs, and you can find out your options. Our promise to you is we specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without the spend down. Why do you say it so loud, Big C? Because I want you to hear it. They say faith comes by hearing. Protection of your assets. Is that Affleck? No, Affleck's the duck. I just had some duck today for lunch, if that makes sense here. You know why I had duck for lunch? Because the duck did not have someone protect his assets, if that makes sense here. With the RDC team, we sat down to eat some duck. So which team do you want to be on? You want to be on the side of the ducks with the Affleck? Or you want to be on the side that orders duck from the menu? That's the RDC team. If that makes sense to you. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists, ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescriptions, medical equipment costs, and more. Do you know anyone that's ever dealt with skilled nursing facilities? Do you know anyone who's ever dealt with prescriptions? Do you know anyone who's ever dealt with medical equipment costs? We help you do that with the RDC team. That's important. Not only that, protection of your assets. including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. Avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program can be from 10 to 40%. It's called probate. What kind of bait, Big C? Probate. Is that the kind of bait you use to bait a fish? No, that's the kind of bait you use to bait people who don't get a trust, if that makes sense to you. And a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. Give that some praise. I did it without making a mistake. But not only that, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet with my infomercial. Why the RDC team for asset protection with the law offices of George Jones and Scott Thibodeau Protection. Insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care. Avoid probate. Life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning, and avoid the look-back period. What about fixed assets, Big C? Do you have that? I'm glad you asked. Your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, money market account, your certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, fixed index annuities. Not only that, variable assets, real estate, qualified money, IRA, 401k, and other investments. And you get that. Attention business owners. I'm saying this loud and clear. Attention business owners. Find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. Well, how do we find it out, Big C? I'm glad you asked. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. And tell them Big C sent you, if that makes sense to you, because we want to help you protect your assets. And it's really necessary that everybody understands that. So why would we use you, Big C? I don't understand. Because we have endorsements of some great people. It's not just me telling you what to do. When you ask anyone to do business with you, oftentimes, if they're smart, they'll say, well, who endorses what you're doing already, Big C? And with RDC, I can say, I'm glad you asked. It's important that you understand you got to have endorsements from good people. And that's what we have with the RDC team. You know who endorses RDC and the Big C team? National Black Wall Street Project. I'm the co-chair of Northern California, Sacramento branch. Also, we have the endorsements of Mr. George Jones, attorney at law, and Scott Thibodeau, attorney at law. We have Mr. George Jones, also the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce. Also the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Not only that, we have Mr. Leon Woods, resource development consultant, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. We have Miss Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. Not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz. He's the CEO of Resource Development Consulting. He had the endorsement of the late CalPERS top legal mind, Robert Carlson. Also, Mr. Alex De La Cruz, the founder of American Veteran Benefits. And not only that, we have the Double O. She has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can find her on Access Sacramento. All you got to do is Google that name. And that's my story. And I'm sticking with it. You got to give us all praise. Give us all praise, praise, praise. And as I love saying, not only that, I'm gonna come up with a special guest today. You won't want to miss it because everybody has their own thoughts when it comes to a guest. But she's someone that comes with great credentials. I'm going to bring her on in just a moment. I'm going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout, and I'll be back in just a moment. All right, I'm back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports Podcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all over the universe and streaming on 4 TV platforms. Really do appreciate that. You know what I do with Big C Sports Podcast, not only being the #1 sports show in the universe, talking sports and also reparations. Every now and then, sometimes God shines on you with you could be walking through a park and you find $100 bill and you say, well, that's my good luck day. There are other days you're walking through a park and you find a bag of golden nuggets. I'm not talking about the ones McDonald's makes, even though there's nothing wrong with that. But I found a golden nugget today, and her name is Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, and she's retired and former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa, and she's worked on several administrations. And I want to ask her, she took some time out on her beautiful vacation in Northern California, which is called the Golden State, but I think I found the real gold in having her join the Big C Sports Podcast. Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, are you there, beautiful woman? Your thoughts?
Well, thank you so much for that introduction, and I'm here.
you know, it's it's pretty exciting when you find someone with their credentials and your accomplishments that's willing to come on a sports podcast. And it's not about me. It's about spreading the word to do good things for all people, especially when it comes to reparations. And some people say, oh, it's divisive. It's not divisive. I think slavery was a lot more divisive than reparations. And I think Jim Crow laws were a lot more divisive than reparations. Reparations just means to repair and do things. But I want to finish the edification of you, and feel free to jump in anytime I may fumble a word. Some people say I talk too fast. Others say I talk too slow. But Dr. Marsh, you focused on black undivided family land retention in the South with your own family as a case study. Can you expound on that, please?
Yes, white supremacy just keeps reinventing itself. So it was slavery, then it was Jim Crow, and then it's the assault on civil rights. So it just keeps reinventing itself over and over again. And so the thing that I focus on with the undivided land is our families left the South. We have land in the South.
Yes.
And then they started the assault during Jim Crow. And a lot of us had to leave the South because of the Ku Klux Klan and the racial violence and things.
Yes.
And one of the things that we did is we didn't separate our land. We held it collectively. And my theory is we retained it collectively because that kept our sense of family together.
Yeah.
And so they divided laws then that made it easy for third parties to come in and buy an interest and then take all of the land.
Yes.
So that's one thing. And my uncle, Alvy Marsh, always said, don't sell the land because land is our wealth.
That's
and
right.
We're losing land daily.
That's
so that
right.
is my focus.
That is your focus, and I'm so honored to have you on, Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, a retired and former congressional senior advisor policy on Africa. Can you talk about some of the administrations, just so people say, oh, Big C, you paid her to come on your program. Can you talk about some of the administrations that you've worked under, ma'am?
Well, I worked for Congress, so it was under the congressional leadership, but in the White House, my first job when I got there, I was working with Bill Clinton's office. And then, believe it or not, we had to work with George Bush's office, but that was before they got real crazy.
Yeah.
And we were able to, one of the things that I'm so proud I did was write a bill to get $15 billion worth of money to Africa for the AIDS pandemic.
Yes, yes.
So we were able to do that. So, yeah, I had quite a nice career while I was in Washington.
And after all of that and working with Bill Clinton and working with Congress, how did you happen to end up on the Big C Sports podcast, who's championing for reparations? I think it's like God says those golden nuggets. Sometimes you just walk across it or you hear somebody's voice. But I want to ask you a few more questions as we have this conversation. Again, talking to the great Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, a retired and former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa, today on the Big C Sports podcast. And as you mentioned, just to hear it again, your uncle, I believe, is it Mr. Alvy Marsh, always taught that land is wealth. Why would that be so important for people today when we hear about reparations? Because some people only think money, but your family member, your uncle, talked about land. Can you expound on that, please?
Yes. If you start looking at the disparities in wealth between blacks and whites in this country, it always reverts back to property.
Yeah.
And the real mainstay of property ownership is the land. It's the land you cultivate. It's the land your house sits on.
Yeah.
It's the land that... So when they take our land, they take our wealth.
Yeah.
And they take the basis on which we can build our wealth. And so that's what happened. And I spent a lot of time talking to people who are trying to reorganize and regroup that land collectively so they can reestablish their wealth.
Yes. Well, land is wealth, and that's important. Again, talking to Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, a retired former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa, also with the Congress. She's worked with Bill Clinton and also the Bush administration, and now she's on Big C Sports podcast. I've got to ask you this question before I ask you about reparations here in California. And Shirley Chisholm was the first black woman to run for president of the United States. Obviously, there's a lot of great mentors that she mentored. And at the same time, when it comes to reparations, were there ever any talk about reparations other than H.R. 40 with Sheila Jackson Lee when you were dealing with Bill Clinton or even the Bush administration? Or is it something that they pushed under the carpet? Your thoughts?
No, we've always talked about reparations because we were always aware that we were being cheated in this country.
Yeah.
But we have to take our hat off to Ta-Nehisi Coates, who wrote that brilliant article several years ago.
Yes.
That moved the reparation discussion from reparation for slavery to saying, no, this is reparation for the ongoing oppression under white slavery.
Yes.
The oppression of our wealth capacity, our capacity of our education,
yes,
all of that. So it didn't just stop with slavery. And we're not just getting reparations for slavery. We're getting reparations for white supremacy and what it's done.
You know, I wanna just commend you for that thought. Oftentimes, Miss Pearl, when people say, well, that happened a long time ago. I had nothing to do with reparations. I had nothing to do with slavery. I didn't own slaves. I don't want to have to pay no tax dollars for slaves. In their best English, if that makes sense to you. And I always say the United States government sanctions slavery, not your next door neighbor. So why is there such pushback when it comes to reparations for descendants of child slavery? Descendants of Holocaust got reparations. We have Japanese Americans got reparations for their internment camps. We have Native Americans getting land back as we are breathing at this time. So why is it when it comes to descendants of child slavery, people want to say, well, I never owned slaves. Why would I have to pay? The country that allowed slavery to exist, I believe the United States of America still exists. Your thoughts?
I heard a man today, I was listening to an old broadcast, say, my family came here in the 1920s from Europe. We didn't own slaves, so why should we pay the burden of reparations? And the answer to him is because you parachuted in as white European immigrants,
yes,
and got to rake off the top of the gravy while black people's rights were suppressed. So don't tell me about you weren't slavery. You came here and benefited,
yes,
from the oppression that took place on behalf of slavery and then on behalf of the reconstruction of oppression.
Dr. Pro, you're brilliant. I told you, you're like finding that golden nugget. In fact, I probably won the lottery today to have you as a guest on BC Sports Podcast. The Homestead Act, for many white Europeans, I believe it was 1863 to 1865, the United States government gave over 300 million acres of land away after the free labor from 1619 to 1865. And according to Einstein, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and there are bloodlines to this day that can trace their wealth and their lineage back to slaveholders and slave owners, and many people who got the Homestead Act, but you could not be beautiful and black. Does that make sense to you?
Nope, you could not.
So when
they were going to...
Go right ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry. Go right ahead, please.
Yeah. No, they weren't. Well, I have to brag on our resilience as people, that we don't give up.
Right.
And we have fought this at every turn.
Yes.
Every turn. So... that's what I can say now.
Yes, and I appreciate you too. And I know you're on your vacation. I won't keep you much longer, but Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, a retired former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa. And I want to get your thoughts now because I'm so pro reparations and I know it's going to happen. And I'm hoping it happens before the election is called. It's called, what do they call that? When you take your pen, executive order. I think President Abraham Lincoln understood the term executive order. So when you think about reparations and the discussion of it, it seems like more states all over the country, from New York, Governor Kathy Hochul, she's talking about having a task force. Of course, 2 years ago, California Governor Gavin Newsom commissioned a task force that I introduce every show with Big C Sports Podcast. Give me your thoughts as a former congressional member on how close we are to actually getting not just the talk of reparations, but having pen to paper. Your thoughts?
Well, I was laughing about that today, particularly out here in California with Governor Newsom. And they know it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
And they know they have the power to do it, but they're just scared of the politics around it and what the repercussions for them as politicians might be. So I think as we continue to, a friend of mine used to say, just give them the reason why they should. Write the script for them. Write the narrative why Gavin Newsom should sign that bill. And then we'll be over. So, the conversation is happening all over the country. And it's not just with in the black community, it's with elected white leadership too.
Yes.
So we just have to keep pressing and don't give up.
I appreciate you saying that, Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, retired former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa. When you talk about it, some people say it's a debate. I think it's a discussion into the construction and reconstruction of the oppression of white supremacy as we moved into the 20th and 21st century. But when I think about when a politician wants to say, do I put my name on that piece of paper? And I think about what Abraham Lincoln did to help end the Civil War, told black soldiers if you join the Civil War, obviously the Emancipation Proclamation came. White reparations already happened after slavery was abolished. It was the plantation owners that actually got reparations, your thoughts?
They did.
So why are people afraid now to have the courage that President Abraham Lincoln had?
Well, you said the right word. Where's the courage?
Yes.
And that's the right word. But we have to remind these people that reparations is just the flip side of where they have gotten whatever the opposite of reparation is. They've gotten opportunity, they've gotten rewarded, they've gotten everything out of the system while we got, our interests were suppressed.
Yes.
So reparations is it's rebalancing. It's not even recovering, it's rebalancing the injustice that has taken place today.
Well, I love what you're saying. You're so well educated, knowledgeable, well-spoken. You're kind enough to let me bother you on vacation. And then to even come on the Big C Sports podcast, and I do sports and politics. But before we close, because I'm so honored to have you on, I love talking to you more than I do this Major League Baseball power rankings that I'm going to do. But Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, a retired and former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa. If I happen to find another golden nugget, and if I've met with Senator Bradford, I've met with Amos Brown, who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King back in the day. If I had the chance to talk to Governor Gavin Newsom, because I think he's in line to at least run for presidency of the United States in the next term, not this year. But what could someone like myself say and say, Al, I say, Dr. Pearl Marsh told me to call you. What can I say that would get his ear on signing that executive order, at least for California, and what happens in California tends to sweep the nation? Your thoughts?
I'd look him right in the eye with a very pleasant face and say, Governor Newsom, do the right thing.
Do the right thing. And Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, when is the right time to do the right thing, please?
The right time to do the right thing is right now.
Right here, right now. And I'll say that's I think a song. Someone sang a song right here, right now. So as we close, I want to just give you the microphone because I can talk to you forever. But is there anything that you would love to say as a clarion call to voters for the next election for the presidency of the United States, no matter who they're going to vote for? What would be your clarion call, Dr. Pearl Marsh, your thoughts to voters?
Well, I would say that we only win by persisting. And we get discouraged around reparations. Oh, we can't get it. Oh, they're not going to give it to us. But we have to persist, and we have to vote.
Yes.
We have to speak out. Programs like your program are fantastic to have the commission set up. And I was listening to the commission report earlier today.
Yes.
We just have to keep fighting. That's why we are where we are today. I'm 77 years old.
Wow.
So I've had it, hard. I remember when I couldn't rent an apartment in Sacramento when I went away to college.
Wow.
So these little, we keep chipping away.
Yes.
And don't give up and don't get discouraged.
Don't give up and don't get discouraged. I thank you for coming on Big C Sports Podcast. And I know I won the lotto tonight because 7's my favorite number, and you're 7-7, if that makes sense to you. And I'll take whatever I can get. I appreciate it. But I'm so honored to have you on the program. I would love to talk to you more down the road as we get closer to the election. And I wish you the very best of health, wealth, and wisdom, Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, retired former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa. Thank you for coming on to the Big C Sports Podcast. I thank you so much, and I wish you a super fantastic day.
And thank you, and this was a blessing to me today.
Well, I'm even doubly honored now. A blessing to you, too. Well, sometimes you do find gold in the country hills, and that makes sense to you. Well, I thank you, Miss. I hope you have a super fantastic day. This is the Big C Sports Podcast. I'm going to take what's called the Big C Pause, and I'll be back in just a moment. Dr. Morris, have a super fantastic day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, I'm back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. And for anyone that says, oh, Big C, you just talking. Well, Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh is a retired and former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa and served during the Bill Clinton and Bush administration. And now on Big C Sports Podcast, because I'm so passionate about this push for reparations, I'm just trying to get other intelligent black men and black women and white women, no matter what color you are, liberty and justice for all, the land of the free, the home of the brave. It's time to do the right thing. We're just looking for someone, whether you are Governor Gavin Newsom or Governor of California or Governor Kathy Hochul of New York, have the courage of Abraham Lincoln and not worry about what somebody who may be your opposition may think. Because if they're your opposition, they're not going to vote for you anyway, if that makes sense to you. If you're doing the right thing, and the right thing is always time to do the right thing. There's no partiality in Christ, and there should never be worry of who's not going to believe in you. If you're doing the right thing, if someone's about to cross the street and they can't see, maybe they're a blind person trying to cross the street, if you try to hold their hand, is there anything wrong with doing the right thing and saying, let me help you cross the street? If you see someone fall down that commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up, is there anything wrong in doing the right thing and helping that person get up off the ground? If you see someone about to grab somebody's purse and take off running, is it okay to say, hey, stop! Don't take that person's purse. Is there anything wrong with saying, do the right thing and don't take that lady's purse? Well, what about when someone is robbed from cradle to grave from 1619 to 1865? At what point do you say, stop! Give them back what you took from them! And that's called reparations. So, because it's the right thing to do. Now, I'm sure we could all agree the wrong thing to do would to see someone trying to cross the street and you push them in front of traffic. That would be the wrong thing. The wrong thing would be if you saw, say, an elderly person fall down and you step on them. That would be the wrong thing. The wrong thing is, say, if you see someone, say an older lady with her purse and she's just trying to buy some groceries and you take the wallet out of the purse. That would be the wrong thing. The right thing would say, put it back. So we're asking all these governors and President Biden, which line do you stand in? The line where you do the right thing, like President Abraham Lincoln did, or the line where you do the wrong thing and you say, we don't want someone to be upset if we do the right thing. That's not that hard. I'm going to let you hear before I get into Big C Sports, where I go, touchdown, home run, 3-point play, oh man Willie, he's gone all the way. I'm going to talk some Major League Baseball power rankings, but it's not going to be as grand as talking to Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, a retired former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa. But I'm going to talk about some NBA basketball. But can you imagine when the Major League Baseball and NBA basketball and NFL football, they start Googling the name Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, a retired and former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa, who is saying that reparations is the right thing to do. Just like saying, don't take that lady's purse. That's the right thing to do. Don't push that person in front of traffic. That's the right thing to do. Don't hurt people. But when somebody's been harmed, we have a system of law that helps them get help. And when someone says, oh, reparations is not my problem, if you were to go home tonight and someone broke into your house, you know the first thing you would do, you wouldn't say, oh, well, they got it, they stole it fair and square. You would call 911 and say, I've been robbed! And you would ask the police to come out and do an investigation to see if they can recover your stolen merchandise. That's never happened for descendants of child slavery. Attorney Areva Martin on reparations and why descendants of child slavery are due reparations.
that cash payments by themselves are enough. It's that cash payments is one way to recognize the harm that was done. And it's very interesting when you look at the Jesuit universities, 27 of them, and the work that they've done in this area. They've gone through this very, very exhaustive process to investigate their relationship to slavery. I mean, so much so that they hired genealogists to trace and to find the actual descendants of enslaved people. So, I mean, you have to think about how expansive and, intense and comprehensive this research was. But then you have to also ask yourself, how come these institutions, with all of their resources, never, ever utilized an economist, a statistician, a labor, expert to tell us the value of the wages and the wealth that they accumulated? It just looks like this big gaping hole. So I think the question should be reframed. How come the universities aren't sharing with the families the value of the labor and the value of the wealth that they've accumulated? So people are always asking descendants or survivors, why do you want money? And I think the question should be the opposite. How come you're not coming to us with money? When you think about the 9/11 victims or any victims of a disaster in this country, there's never ever a question about should we compensate them. That is a part of our civil, legal, judicial system. You have a harm, somebody else causes it, you are entitled to compensation. It's never ever challenged except in those examples where Black folks are involved. So I think we have to change the narrative around this question. And rather than, and not suggesting you're doing this, but oftentimes families or individuals who are seeking compensation are put on the defensive as if they've done something wrong. But no fault of our own. We did nothing wrong. And if you worked for me, I'm an entrepreneur, business owner. If you worked for me and I never paid you, you would have recourse. You would be able to go to a labor board. You'd be able to go into our courts and demand your labor be compensated. You'd be able to get penalties against me for not compensating you. You'd be able to get interest on those wages that I didn't pay you. So again, this isn't like new to capitalism. This is how our country is built. This is how we operate today. You work, I pay. Let's be clear. So our request in terms of compensation restitution is not the total amount that was calculated. We calculated that amount because we felt like it needed to be a part of the conversation. It's on the table. We're not asking them for $74 billion. We're asking them to consider the value of that slave labor in the same way they are considering other aspects of their relationship with enslaved people. What we hope to get out of it is, first, that descendants are literally put back on this committee, that this is no longer a university exclusive committee, that the descendants are there at the table, that they commit to a timeline. Loyola University in Maryland went through this process and wrapped their work up in 2 years. So you can Google them and see what they've done in 2 years. We're into year 5, and we've not even sat down and talked about a plan. So we also hope that there's a commitment to wrap this work up in some foreseeable future, 6 months, 12 months, that it not just go on indefinitely. And then we are asking that the plan that is developed includes not only some of the things that we see in this work, monuments, things that give attribution to those who helped build this university, curriculum changes, projects that help the community. One thing we realized, so many people in St. Louis. St. Louis is a small city, 300,000 people. I live in Los Angeles now. They're like, 12 million people where I live. So few people had even heard of this work. So another part of what we're hoping that comes out of this is some resources spent educating people about this work, because people in that very community don't know. And then, of course, some kind of financial restitution for the labor, for the wages that have been uncompensated for this period of time.
That's attorney Areva Martin, her thoughts on reparations. I have one more great speaker, known as the best speaker ever in the history of this country, on his thoughts on reparations. I know you want to know who won the game, but when we have the same heart to do the right thing that the greatest speaker in the history of this country ever did, then we'll be getting reparations.
Martin Luther King, we had a conversation a couple days ago about handouts and how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them, murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
In your life, I love talking about reparations. Reparations now, reparations forever. All right, back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. Really do appreciate that. Had the great Dr. Pearl Marsh, PhD, congressional member, United States Congress. She's on the show. Really do appreciate her. And then, of course, we have some NBA basketball tonight with the Miami Heat. They are taking on the Boston Celtics, and the Dallas Mavericks will play the LA Clippers later today in NBA basketball. But I love having bright minds. What they say, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I would say a bright mind is a terrible thing to waste. Some people, we can afford to waste their minds. I'm so honored to have Dr. Pearl Marsh, PhD, congressional member on the Big C Sports Podcast. And I want to just say I really do appreciate her and her push to help with Big C Sports Podcast and getting reparations now, reparations forever. And now back by popular demand, runners on first and third. The Cow's full of the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep. I love bringing you Big C Sports podcast when it comes to Major League Baseball, and I have my own thoughts about who the best teams are when it comes to Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. Everybody has their own favorite team, and I have a team too that I wanna start a new team in what's called Major League Baseball expansion. You know how we have the Washington Nationals? I want to have the United States Reparations as a new baseball team in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. How about that? I think that would go over quite well to have a new baseball team, an expansion team called the United States Reparations. That would really go over well. I want to go, my opinion is my opinion, and everybody has their own opinion. I got to start number 10 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. I have the Seattle Mariners. You got the great Logan Gilbert, has been outstanding this season, and when you think about it, they're the first place Mariners. The only thing missing in the Mariners is a champion for reparations. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Come out, swung on, in deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little Rays. I love seeing the girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep, and that Big C's Seattle Mariners coming in at number 10 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. Up in the Pacific Northwest, they have a great team, and it's nice to see them swinging the bat, if that makes sense to you. I have number 9 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings, the Kansas City Royals. The ageless Salvador Perez is currently slashing 340, 398, and 592. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, in deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little Rays. I love seeing the girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep. I love Major League Baseball this time of year. The only thing missing out of the camp of the Kansas City Royals at Kauffman Field is a talk of reparations. Could you imagine the same way the Major League Baseball and NFL and NBA, we gathered together our thoughts and our support to end apartheid in South Africa? What if we could do that for descendants of child slavery? Because reparations will stimulate the American economy, and who doesn't want to have the American economy stimulated? I got number 8 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. The Milwaukee Brewers, a humbling weekend for the Brewers, and I'm sure they're still in great shape. And who had them leading the National League Central as we approach the month of May 1st? All friend level. Speaking of which, this team this coming weekend in Wrigley Field, it could be fun. A great baseball series to say, take me out to the ball game. Runners on first and third. They count for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, in deep, center field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little Rays. I love seeing the girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep. Imagine when the Milwaukee Brewers, they start championing reparations the same way we championed to end apartheid in South Africa. Really do appreciate that. I got to go number 7 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. The Chicago Cubs, as they take me out to the ball game. You got the great Pete Crow Armstrong. He was 0 for 14 with 7 strikeouts and a cup of coffee last season. In 5 games so far this year, he's 5 for 13 with a double and a home run. If he could actually stick, it would be a silver lining on the Cody Bellinger injury. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Runners on first and third. The counts for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, in deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little Reds. In Chicago, they love saying the girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it in the Windy City. You know, Windy City is not named, Chicago's not called the Windy City because it's so windy. It's called the Windy City for its politics. Yeah, they say all's fair and level war. I got to go number 6 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings, especially being out here on the West Coast where the skies are bluer. I want to say the L.A. Dodgers. I believe they won 11 of the last 12 National League West titles. They lost enough in the previous few weeks to cause a little bit of concern in the good old boys in Dodger Blue, but a few misguided souls. They ripped off 6 straight wins. You can always count on the Dodgers being there the same way you can count on the ocean being there on the California coastline. Runners on first and third. The pitch, curveball, swung on, in deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friends. They say the girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep at Chavez Ravine in Southern California. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Number 5 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings, I have the Baltimore Orioles. This series lost at home to the Oakland A's, soon to be Sacramento A's. It's not that good. However, it's not as bad as it could have been last year. Remember when Baltimore's rotation had been shorthanded all year, and the great Kyle Bradish returned this week, and they loved him at Camden Yards. Runners on first and third. The count for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep, center field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friends. They love saying the girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep. You got to see Baltimore, Camden Yards. What a great place for a baseball game, and seeing the fans come back and support Baltimore and the sports teams, whether it's the Ravens or the Orioles. That's a great place for sports teams, and I want to just say they made Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings, and that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Not everybody agrees that they're as good as I think they are, but I think they're a good team, and so that's why I put them as high as I put them. And again, everybody has their own thoughts about it, but those are my thoughts. I'm going to say now, back to Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. You say what you want to say, but the team in pinstripes in New York City, the Yankees win. The Yankees win. The New York Yankees. Remember when Aaron Judge had seemingly forgotten how to hit? In his last 6 games, he's 8 for 23 with a double and 3 homers. Runners on first and third. They count for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love it saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. If you get to see a game in Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, it's a must-see on everybody's bucket list. Imagine in New York City, the same state where Governor Kathy Hochul said, reparations now, reparations forever. Imagine if they would just have her throw out the first pitch. That would be a home run, in my opinion. Everybody has the love for home run. I want to go number 3 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. The great Philadelphia Phillies, Cy Suarez Ranger, is 5-0 with a 1.32 ERA. He's a Jedi Knight, trained long ago in the galaxy far, far away by the great Obi-Wan Kenobi. He has 40 strikeouts in 41 innings so far. He even has a complete game and a shutout too. That's not bad when you have a flamethrower. Runners on first and third. They count for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. And those good old boys in Philadelphia, even if they get knocked out of the NBA playoffs by the New York Knicks, they got to have a lot of hope. And the Philadelphia Phillies doing their thing. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I got number 2 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. The Cleveland. This is for you. The Guardians. There's absolutely no shame in losing 2 of 3 to the Atlanta Braves down there in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Especially with the one of the losses coming in extra innings. They stood toe-to-toe with the Titans. It's all weekend, which means they got promoted to the number 2 spot in the Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Runners on first and third. They count for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. When Cleveland has it going, it's a great city for football with the Cleveland Browns, also for NBA basketball with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and don't forget about the Guardians. You gotta have the Guardians of the Galaxy. How about Guardians of the Universe? Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. If only they champion reparations. That's the only thing missing is for the city of Cleveland to champion reparations. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Now, if you can't get this team to champion reparations, I don't know what to say. The state of Georgia, especially down in Stone Mountain, Georgia. You heard of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, and he talked about reparations now, reparations forever, along with the great Abraham Lincoln. They had the courage to talk about it. I got number 1 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. The Atlanta Braves, you know it's scary. They're doing this with the great Ronald Acuna Jr. hitting for no power, while the great Austin Riley and Matt Olson have been pretty lackluster as well. But down south, in Stone Mountain, Georgia, where they say the peaches are always sweet, I think the peaches are sweeter in California. I got the number 1 Major League Baseball team in the universe. the Atlanta Braves. Runners on first and third. They count for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep. Right field, back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little Reds. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I tell you, everybody has their own opinion, but that's the opinion of Big C Sports Podcast. I love bringing it to you. We know we have so many great things happening in the world of sports. You either lead, follow, or get out of the way, and that's what I love doing with Big C Sports Podcast. I am so grateful to be able to have a show that can talk about things that I love. We know sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. But it takes bright minds, like W.E.B. Du Bois said, that talent at 10. You can even Google Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson. He has thoughts on reparations and how it would stimulate this economy. I'm so honored to have the chance to work with the RDC team in protecting and preserving your assets. No, that's AFLAC. The RDC team, we protect your assets. Asset protection. What kind of protection? Asset protection. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. But I had a special guest on the Big C Sports Podcast today, Dr. Pearl Alice Marsh, a retired and former congressional senior policy advisor on Africa, and she's focused on black undivided family land retention in the South with her own family as a case study. And her uncle Ali Marsh always taught them that land is wealth, and we need that for African Americans. We never got the Homestead Act. Our soldiers did not get the GI Bill. That was only for white soldiers, and that's not wrong. And that, in a great country, the land of the free, the home of the brave, that was a crime in itself. There's no one can argue that we don't deserve reparations. You can Google Survivors for Today Act. It's where the United States Congress is making sure that descendants of Holocaust still get their reparations. Survivors Today Act of 2017, you can Google it, 2017. That's just 7 years ago. For all the governors and all the politicians that want to do the right thing, do the right thing. Support California Governor Gavin Newsom and his push for the reparations task force, and pray that he has the courage to just do what President Abraham Lincoln did when he signed by executive order, reparations now, reparations forever. All good people. Doesn't matter who you are. I'm so grateful to have Big C Sports Podcast to attract bright minds. And I want to keep attracting bright minds. As I always tell you, I always want to pay homage to my beautiful family legacy, on my beautiful mother's side, my beautiful great-grandparents, Mama and Pop, my grandparents, Muddy and Hezekiah, my beautiful mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Always saying rise and shine, started a Head Start program and a food program, the best person I ever met in my life. On my father's side, my grandfather, Albert Curry, he actually owned 2 gas stations and 3 churches and 40 acres of land, if that makes sense to you. My beautiful grandmother, Alberta Curry, she said when I was 8 years old in Oakland, walking through a hallway, going to get me some cookies. She said, "Are you going to get some cookies here, man?" I said, "No, I'm going to get my reparations." But a few cookies wouldn't hurt. She said, "There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. I really do appreciate her." And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always saying develop your mind to his highest extent. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. Always saying go forward. A voracious reader. I love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors, in 3.5 years from a major university. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. She said at the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media, it became the first time in the history of the United States of America that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network because of 2 black men in the crew. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Daisy, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. Always pray Isaiah 54:17 that no weapon formed against you will prosper. And then my beautiful handsome son Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College student, very smart, erudite, a good man. Malcolm actually helped me save trees. One time I was looking for stories for a Big C Sports Podcast, and I was always getting newspapers. And one day Malcolm said, "Dad," he said, "why don't you just Google it? It's a lot easier." So I started Googling, and I'm on 29 podcast platforms. One day, Malcolm said, "Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up." That's before it was even on the air. He spoke it into existence like I won the lottery tonight. He's spoken into existence now on 4 TV platforms streaming: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, you can be anything you want. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. I love it with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, like coming out of that barn with my great-grandparents, saying you gotta believe, you gotta believe, you gotta believe, saying let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. SP nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-way teleprompters. That's pretty obvious, Big C. I have no producer in my ear, but I do use God, my higher self. The ancient youth thinkers used to say there's a gland in the brain called the pineal gland. They call it the third eye. And they say that's how you talk to God. And sometimes you can hear the third eye. You talk so loud, Big C. Well, that's true. I love playing with the third eye. But that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you on every Big C Sports Podcast, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start drinking after they've been driving. The life you save may be your own. May likely strike if somebody's foolish enough to get behind the wheel of the car and start driving as they've been drinking. Don't do that. Save a life. Don't drink and drive. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go to that crap. You need more leader in your life. Leader is an acronym for love and the answer. If somebody's slapping you, I only slapped you because it made me mad. Don't let that happen. If somebody's kicking you, I only kicked you because it made me mad. If somebody's choking you out, I only choked you because it made me mad. Call 911. Call 911. No one should ever have to put up with that crap. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations now, reparations forever. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. We always close by honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and President Abraham Lincoln. When they say President Biden, sign that pen. What pen? The one that says reparations now, reparations forever. Come on, say it loud like you just won the game. Sign reparations now, reparations forever. Say it like your heart, mind, body, and soul believes in it. I said sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.